Hi everyone, it's me again, your favourite Scotsman, and thanks for joining us on the channel. Today I'll be answering all your questions on what exactly a TFSA is, some ways you can optimise it, and even kicking around some ideas about which common mistakes I see in my role as a wealth advisor. Before we go any further, some of you may be wondering what in the world a TFSA even is. So let me give you a wee recap on the Canadian tax-free savings account. The programme was introduced in 2009 as a way for people who are 18 years or older, like me, to set aside money that is considered tax-free. Every year you're given the opportunity to add a set limit, and anything added within that limit can't be deductible for income taxes. You may have stopped paying attention at the words tax-free, but let's not forget there are some rules that you have to play by here. If you want more of a rundown on the basics of a TFSA before we get into the nitty-gritty of this video, you can click on the link above to watch my previous one explaining it. As it stands, the current lifetime contribution limit for 2022 is $81,500. In plain terms, this means that if you turned 18 in 2009 and have never made a contribution yet, you'd be able to put that entire amount in today. Sounds alright, doesn't it? Now remember, unused contribution room carries over year to year. This may sound pretty straightforward, and for the most part it is, but there are a couple of things that we see surprisingly often that you can and you should avoid. Before we dive a little deeper, if you haven't subscribed to the channel already, I hope you consider it. We'll be kicking off 2023 with 2 brand new videos every week, so you can get all your financial planning questions answered from the comfort of your own home. Sadly, I had to pay for my education, but maybe you can get yours for free. Right, now that the marketing pitch is over and my YouTube channel shareholders are happy, let's get back to what you came for. The first and most costly mistake we see often is people using it exclusively as a savings account. Now, I know what you're thinking, the word is in the name, but in reality, it probably should be called a tax-free investment account. Only under rare circumstances should the TFSA be sitting in cash or cash equivalents. Like if you know a big bill is coming up, or if you're looking to close on a new home. A big question we like to ask clients is, who do you want your money to work for? Yourself or the person holding it? And this is why I encourage you to consider your options. Do not, and I repeat, do not be fooled by your local bank offering to set up a TFSA for you and offer you a small interest rate in return. This is, in my opinion, the absolute wrong way to use it, and for most people it just really shouldn't be allowed. The reason I say this is because there's so much more you can achieve with a TFSA. In case you weren't aware of some of the TFSA's other benefits, you can use it much like you would an RRSP by utilising it as an investment vehicle into stocks, bonds, mutual funds, ETFs, and so on. My favourite part? You do not pay a cent in tax. Well, I know you probably just about fell off your chair there, but you did hear that right. Not a cent in tax on any dividends, interest, or even capital gains. In theory, your TFSA could grow to $1 million, and you could withdraw it at any time without paying tax. In reality though, I mean, this would require a bit of luck or education from your favourite YouTuber. But the point still stands. The The TFSA is a top-notch option for growing your wealth without being hit by taxes. This is why I suggest you don't waste it on a 0.5 or 2% interest and keep it all in cash. Don't believe me? Here's an example. The first one shows the growth of a TFSA over time, contributing each year with a 2% annual return. Now that we've seen that, the second one, this is looking at TFSA, same, contributing every year, but a 5% return. Take a look at the difference in the numbers there. That is absolutely huge. So hopefully that makes my point fairly clear. The second mistake we often see is the beneficiary designation wrong. With the TFSA, you can either select a beneficiary or a successor holder. If you have a spouse and your intention is for them to receive the proceeds of your TFSA when you pass, it is absolutely imperative that you select them as a successor holder. So what's the difference between the two? Well, whoever is named as the beneficiary on your TFSA will receive the proceeds of the account completely tax-free. Well, that all sounds great, so what do you have to name a successor holder for? First of all, just so we're clear, only a spouse or common law partner can be considered a successor holder. The reason you want to do this is the total proceeds of your TFSA can be rolled over into your spouse's regardless of how much contribution room your spouse has. Assuming you have maximised your TFSA room over the years, this effectively doubles the amount your spouse can have in his or her TFSA. This can mean considerable tax savings going forward for your spouse. The third mistake may seem obvious, but I see it far too often, and it can be quite costly in penalties from the CRA. Make sure you don't go over your overall contribution limit. Over-contributing comes in the form of a penalty on 1% of the excess contribution every month until it's withdrawn. As an example, a $10,000 over contribution means a penalty of $100 a month every month until it is withdrawn. If you catch it early enough, then it's a pretty easy fix. If the amount is relatively small and you're lucky, you may just get a small slap on the wrist and told to go to your room and not do that again. More often than not though, you'll be paying a penalty, which defeats the purpose of saving on taxes. Given the CRA operates incredibly smoothly, efficiently and quickly, this letter can often take several weeks, months, or even years in some cases to arrive. During this time, your penalty will start to stack up. The most common cases where I see this happening is when you have multiple TFSAs at multiple institutions and you forget what you contributed and when. Another case can be, let's say, you're withdrawing funds part the way through the year to buy a new car, for example. Then you quickly realise that with the current situation, buying the car you wanted is going to take much longer than you thought, so you put the funds back in a couple of months later. That is not allowed. You have to ensure that you do not put back in any withdrawals until at least January 1st of the following year. This is a great example of why you can benefit from a professional wealth advisor to make sure your moves don't cost you in the long run. That is the second and final sales pitch of today, I promise. The fourth mistake for today that I want you to avoid is investing money in a TFSA while you have outstanding high interest debt. If you're sitting on a credit card debt or an unsecured line of credit, get that paid off first before you consider investing in a TFSA. The chances of you gaining more in investment return over the long term are slim. Paying off your high interest debt is essentially a risk-free investment and will likely do more for your cash flow in the long run. Given where interest rates are today and where they are likely to be over the short term, You may even want to consider paying down your home equity line of credit. The fifth and final mistake you want to be aware of is day trading within your TFSA. Something we've seen more of recently. Now, this is a little bit of a grey area as there's no set rules, but here's what we can tell you. Essentially, a large amount of trading activity could constitute a business, even if it's done inside a TFSA. The tax rules mean that should a TFSA operate like a business, then you have to pay income tax. So be aware of that if you're doing lots of trading. I'll provide a link in the description where you can read more on the subject. Well everyone, that's it for today's video. I hope this gave you some things to think about when it comes to your tax-free savings account. If you enjoyed the video, I would appreciate if you hit the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you want to see more like this. If you ever think of a topic you'd specifically like me to cover, drop a comment below and I'll see if it's something I can do for you. Thank you very much for joining us, and I look forward to seeing you next time.